Hey, welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. In this case, we're back to gear check. We hit the range with the PWS, that Mark 16 Mod 2, which is a fabulous rifle, by the way, made here in Idaho. And we also put it up against the bootleg. I don't have a complete bootleg rifle, but I do have a upper that I purchased, and I slapped it on just a regular lower. And we decided we'd go side by side with the two rifles. The reason why we chose the bootleg to go up against the PWS is they were made at the time. Bootleg was made by PWS. That was their gas impinged version of the rifle, a little bit lower cost, a more affordable line. But we were really surprised about what we got, the results that we got from this testing. We decided we'd run through a few different kinds of ammunition at the same distances with those rifles side by side. We were really curious to see what different velocities we'd get from a long stroke piston system compared to a gas impinge system. And like I said, we were kind of surprised at the results. Downside with this video, we lost a lot of footage. I don't know if the camera's overheated or if we didn't hit record or maybe the files got corrupted. But there's some of the footage we just didn't get of us actually shooting the rifle. I do have a lot of the target impacts that we'll throw in there, so I'll probably have to jump in with a voiceover here and there just to explain about what's really going on, so you can see what we're shooting and how the results are. So let's, I guess, with no further ado, let's jump into it.
All right. G'day, everyone. Today we're doing some ammo testing, but we're doing it a little differently. So we want to test the PWS that we're using right now, the primary weapon systems Mark 1 Mod 2, 16-inch, and we want to compare that with the equivalent, or as close equivalent as we can, with the DI gun, which is the Bootleg Arms, 16-inch, which was, back in the day, it was made in and around the same factory as the primary weapon systems. So you've got a very similar upper. The only difference, apart from the actual quality of the barrel, is the gas system. As we may or may not know, the gas system on the primary weapon system is a long stroke piston system, and we'll be comparing it against a DI. So we're going to do 5-shot groups using different types of ammo. We're going to be testing the accuracy and the speed of the rounds as they come out. So enjoy. So as you can see, we're shooting the green tips first. We're doing 5 rounds of the green tips to see how they perform. Right. So we've got an average on this of 29.29. Standard deviation is 16.6. All right, so on to the next one. All right, everyone. Now we're shooting the M193. It's a bulk pack. This is a 55 grain full metal jacket. And we'll see how she goes. All right. That came out on 3,060 was the minimum. The average is 3,089. The standard deviation is 22.7. All right, everybody. We've got the Hornady Black, 62 grain, and 5-shot group. Right, we've got a lovely little group there. We've got this one. Okay. All right, so we've got an average of 3,023. Standard deviation of 21.
Session. Alrighty, now it's my turn to shoot. Hope you can hear me okay. The wind is starting to pick up here at the range. We're gonna go in the same order that Chris just shot. We're gonna start with the green tips, and then we're gonna go to the 55 grainers, the Winchesters, and then we're gonna shoot those Hornady Blacks, which I'm really curious to shoot out of this bootleg upper. Like Chris mentioned before, the bootleg was made in the same place as the PWS. This is their impinged version instead of the long piston stroke.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Which, by the way, if you haven't shot a long piston stroke,
everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.
PWS, you're missing out on something quite amazing. So let's load these 5 up. Let's see what our average velocity and the standard deviation ends up being. And it is quite a nice day. If it wasn't for the wind, man, it is absolutely beautiful out here. All right, let's see what we can do here. First, we gotta find my target. There she is. Okay.
Top left.
Top left. Something else we probably need to mention is we didn't change any of the triggers out. These are just, like in this case, I built this lower and it's just a mil-spec trigger. All right, so looks like standard deviation, we are at 24.2. And let's see, how do I check the average here? This thing's new to me.
Just the middle.
Middle? Uh-oh, now I screwed it up.
You'll have to do a bit of a session on the Rangecraft anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So average was 29.51.
Yep.
29.51.3, I should say. Those are the green tips.
Yep, so 2951.
2951.3.
Yep.
And then you got 24.2 on the SD.
Yep.
All right, next up are these Winchesters M183s, 55 grain full metal jacket. And you can see I bought these as a bulk pack, which is pretty common. 5 rounds into the
Magpul.
mag it goes. Okay. Oh, it's a Magpul mag. We'll edit that out. I'll do something funny there. Okay, here we go. 55 grain full metal jackets. Not a bad looking group there. All right. Looks like we are. Pull this thing back here. Standard deviation of 14.5, which is interesting.
14.5. Average of 3103.
Yeah, you heard Chris. 3103 is an average speed. That's pretty.
That's cooking.
That's good. Interesting. All right. Now through this bootleg upper, we're gonna throw these Hornady Black 62 grain full metal jackets. These are considered match ammo, so I'm curious to see velocity and deviation out of these guys, especially out of this upper. It's been a fun day at the range. We've actually collected a lot of data, kind of off camera. Find my target here. Okay. We are at an active range, so we're going to hear some more background voices and shooting as it gets more busy during the day. It's turning out to be a pretty good group, actually. That one pinhole the last shot I just fired. Really, I could tell you anything. You're not looking at the target. I could say I put them all in the same hole and you wouldn't even know. All right. Middle button, you said? We're going to talk about this here in a second, but... Nope. I screwed it up. I don't know what I'm doing. This is technology. There we go. Good thing producer Chris is here to help me. All right. Average velocity is 3004.9. And your standard deviation is 17.7. Pretty cool. Pretty interesting. It's interesting to see what a gas and pinch system does compared to the piston-driven system with the exact same ammo. This is great data. I'm going to get these all produced on a string right now. We're writing them down on a notepad, but I'll print them up on the screen so you can see exactly what's going on. This is pretty fun, actually.
Very good. And this one here, that was 215.
So here's the data that I was talking about in the end. So I had all this in a Word doc. For the life of me, I cannot find it. So I'm going off of our field notes. By the way, this is one of those right in the rain free notebooks. Like when you go to SHOT Show, they hand these out like candy. So I always grab as many as they'll let me take because they're just so dang handy. if you're doing any kind of testing like this, obviously load data, that kind of stuff, keep track of everything you're doing. Even when you go to the range and you're testing dope or whatever with your scope and whatever particular cartridge you're shooting out of a particular rifle, keep meticulous notes because you never know when they're going to come in handy. This is a great example why. Like, we wrote down everything in our little notepad. So while we got this going here, forgive me, I got to read these, but it's just the way it is. So Chris, he shot the PWS, and that first string he shot, those were the green tips, the 62 grain green tips. The average velocity that he was seeing was 29.29 with a standard deviation of 16.6. Then the second string he shot was the M193, the 55 grainers, that bulk pack. The average velocity he was seeing out of those again was 3089 for the standard or the regular velocity, average velocity. And then the standard deviation that he saw out of that was 22.7. So there's that number is a lot bigger than what we expected it would be out of that with that particular round. And then the last string he shot, that was the Hornady Black, the 62 grain. And that stuff's not cheap. This is what we thought was interesting. The standard deviation, let's start with the velocity. The velocity he was seeing on that on average was 30.23. So pretty quick, obviously, coming out of that rifle, but with a standard deviation of 21, which we thought was interesting. Now, I shot the bootleg, and the first string I shot, I believe was, I can't remember if I shot the 193 or the green tip. I think it was the green tip as well. I don't know, because I got, these are kind of in and out of order. So let's just start with the green tip because that's what Chris shot first as well. So I saw an average velocity out of the bootleg of 29.51, which is pretty dang close with the PWS at 29.29, and the standard deviation was a little bit greater with the bootleg at 22 or 24.2, and then the M193. The average velocity I saw, this is another thing we thought was interesting. The average velocity out of the bootleg was 31.03 with a standard deviation of 14.5. So we're seeing greater velocities and a smaller number on standard deviation, which that was intriguing to us. And then the Hornady Black out of the bootleg, the velocities we were seeing were 3004.9. So the PWS saw them at 30.23. We were getting just over 3,000 feet per second. But again, our standard deviation was lower at 17.7 compared to the 21 out of the PWS. These numbers were really interesting to us, and so that's why we decided to shoot this next string again, just to see what was going on with that M93. And then let's look at that. So, yeah, and then I'll jump back again. This just feels different. It's just a different feel altogether.
Yeah.
For the sake of science, we're going to do another 5-shot round out of this with the 55 grainers just to double check. Because, and I'll show you, you'll probably have seen the data by now and have the same questions we do, but we're gonna do this on this guy here. Get nested in here. I pulled that one really bad. Good thing you're not looking at the target. Okay. 5-shot spread. Looks like our average velocity is 3083.9.
Was it?
Yeah, 3083.9 and a standard deviation of 23.7.
basically identical to last time.
Interesting. With your group.
Yeah, with my group.
That's really interesting that what we're, because I don't know if anybody's actually ever really sat down and done this.
No, and now we're going to go straight back to this for another 5 rounds.
You're going to shoot that one.
I'll shoot this one, okay.
And this is where our footage just disappears, just vanishes. I don't have Chris's footage of him shooting the next string with the PWS or with the bootleg, so I don't know exactly what happened there. It was kind of frustrating, whether it be the target information or the camera that we had up here at the shooting booth. Gone, disappeared, vanished. I don't know. I couldn't find it anywhere in all the footage that I was looking for. So, needless to say, like, we still recorded the data. I'm not going to put it up on the screen. I'll read it to you, but the information that we got was with the 193, that next string of 5 out of the PWS was, well, actually we shot the bootleg first. Chris shot the bootleg first. That was the average velocity was 3098.6 with a standard deviation of 36.7. So a drastically different number than what we got when I shot the bootleg with the 193, which, if you remember, I was shooting a little bit faster on the average, which was 31.03 or 3103 with a standard deviation of 14. And he shot a standard deviation with 36.7. So I don't know if it was the ammo that was having issues. I don't know if it was the air temperature and the humidity. So many different variables. It was just really intriguing. And then his string out of the PWS was 3085.4 of the average velocity, and then a standard deviation of 27.9. But if we look at the 193 out of that first string that I shared and recorded on the screen, the standard deviation was pretty dang close. The original was 22.7, but but the 27.9 on the standard deviation. Oh yeah, it's 22.7. Velocity was almost identical, 3085.4 compared to the first string at 3089. So pretty dang close there. So it didn't make sense coming out of the out of the first string and the bootleg compared to the second string. I don't know. I don't get it, but I mean, it is what it is. When I shot the second set with the PWS, just because we were getting really confused, my average was 3083 with a 23.7 standard deviation. So SD was all over the place. Velocity, I mean, that is what it is. I'm not too shocked when I see 100 or 200 feet per second difference. That's not a big deal. Just because factory ammo, it's hard to control what's going on. But the standard deviation, that's what was really confusing me. So anyways, I'm going to jump to the next set of footage, which is still a little bit confusing because some of that footage is missing. I still have the target. We can talk about it. I'll pull it up here in a second. But let's jump to that footage right now. All right, let's jump to this paper target here. Unfortunately, I don't have the footage of us talking and explaining what's going on, of us shooting at the bench. But this first string of 5 is at the bottom right of this target. You're going to see these shots impacting there. This was, I don't know what Chris was shooting here. I can't remember what was going on exactly. I don't know if he was just double checking a 0 on a scope or what was it. This is not part of the official test that I wrote down on these next 8 strings. But it's still fun. It's fun to watch him shoot. He's pretty good with a rifle, even though, you know, it's a little bit harder for him to get fun stuff down under. All right, let's jump to this next one. This is going to be up at the very top of the target there. And what he's shooting here is the Hornady Black. This is 62 grain. This is 5.56. And what we were getting out of here was the average velocity of 3011.9 with a standard deviation of, it looks like 12.5. But the kinetic energy, this is going to be interesting when we go through these kinetic energy numbers. This one was 1248.7, and it looks like he's got a pretty solid group going up there on the top right there. And it's always fun to be able to shoot 5.56 and 223 out of the same rifle. Again, this is the PWS in 223 Wild, which is awesome chambering, where you can buy 223 or 5.56 and just push some different pills down the barrel to see what it looks like on the target downrange. Now this next string of 5, this is 223. This is also Hornady Black in the 62 grain, but instead of 5.56, it's 223, and he's going to that next diamond down up there on the very top. Now with this, we're seeing an average velocity of 2835.8, a standard deviation of 7.5, so less on the deviation, but also less on the kinetic energy. We're seeing 1106.9 on the kinetic energy. It's just interesting to look when you think of 5.56 and 223. There is a pressure difference in those cartridges. A lot of people say, oh no, it's the same thing. It's just the NATO's 5.56 designation is no different than the 223. There are internal pressure differences between those two cartridges. And this is what we're seeing here in this data. Now this next string of 5, this is also 223, 68 grain Frontier match. These are Boattail hollow points, by the way. We saw an average velocity of, it looks like 2703.2. The standard deviation was a lot greater here. We're at 21.9, which is quite a bit more than what we thought it would be. And also, I thought it was interesting where we're seeing a kinetic energy of 1103.2, so almost identical to the 62 grain Hornady Black that we just shot in that string before. Very, very close. Now this last string that he's going to be shooting up top there, these are 75 grain Hornady Blacks in 223. I was really curious about this round to see exactly what it was going to do. You can see that it's up there on that top left. Now the velocity here was far slower, and I guess it's, you know, this is a heavier bullet going down there. We're seeing a velocity of average here of 2647.5. The standard deviation was 16.9, which I was kind of surprised with that longer pill. But the kinetic energy was 1167.1. So it's hitting pretty good for what it is. Now these next 4, this is me shooting the PWS, and it's going to go in reverse order. So it's the same cartridge that we just saw. This is the Hornady Black in 223, the 75 grain. Now the barrel's heating up, right? We've shot some strings through this. The average velocity that I was seeing was 2651.2, so pretty dang close to the velocities just before at 2647 that Chris shot. Now my standard deviation was less at 12.9, and my velocity was virtually identical, 1170.4 to 1167. Not really a difference to write home about. Now this is the Frontier, the 68 grain Frontier in 223. Again, these are Boattail hollow points. Right there, dead center on the top. Now, I got an average velocity out of this at 2705.4, which was basically the exact same thing that Chris got. 17.7 standard deviation with a kinetic energy of 1104.9, which again was almost identical of the string that Chris shot out of the PWS with that exact same cartridge, which I guess is what you would expect. Now this next string here, these are 223. This is Hornady Black 62 grain. We were seeing a average velocity here of 2862.4. Standard deviation of 13.7. And kinetic energy of 1127.8. Which is just a little bit more energy than what we were seeing when Chris shot this rifle. Pretty good group there, dead center that target. Now this last string is 5.56 62 grain Hornady Black. These are full metal jackets. Now the velocity I was seeing again was almost identical of what when Chris shot. 3011.7. When Chris shot it was 3011.9. The standard deviation was a little bit better for me, 11.7, with a kinetic energy of 1248.0, a difference of 0.7. So that was a very consistent round. The nice thing is these grids on here, they're about 1-inch grids. So if you're trying to dial in a scope or maybe sight measure your group that you're shooting down range, it's kind of easy just to sight it through your scope and get a good idea. Here is that target, that last, whatever, how many shots we shot. Pretty interesting. Now I can throw this target away because I've kept this for so long, over a month here. The sticky's peeling off of it. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the comparisons. We're going to dive into this. It's not the end. This isn't the end between the PWS and the bootleg. There's some other things we want to try and test out for sure. Also, that day at the range, we went out and stretched the legs on both of these rifles out to 200 and 300 yards just to see how things were going to go. They both ran pretty dang good. I still want to do a comparison between, I have a different AR that's kind of expensive compared to some of these, or both the bootleg and the PWS. Should be interesting. We still got to talk about the optics that we were using. I still need to talk about that little Athlon radar deal. That is super rad. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully this gives you guys some kind of steering or data to decide what you want to do. Maybe you want to pick up a PWS, but you're not sure if it's going to be worth the money that you're going to be spending on it. Maybe you're curious about finding one of those older bootleg uppers that were produced by PWS and wondered if it was anything good. And yeah, I would say it's a great buy if you can find one of those older ones. So anyway, pretty awesome, pretty fun. If you have any comments about this video or questions, just throw them down in the comments. This wasn't meant to be a podcast episode. I'm not going to dive into what exactly everything was. I just wanted to give you the data that we collected and let you decide. It was a fun day. There's going to be more of them. We're trying to get Chris to move to the United States. So maybe if you're the praying type, help a brother out. He is such a good dude, and we need him here in the country. He needs to get to a place where he can exercise the freedom to, or the right to keep and bear arms a little bit more than what he's used to. He's a stud. He's an absolute stud. So that's it. You guys have fun. Again, holler if you have any questions. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube things that you're supposed to do. By the way, I do have a goal of hitting 1,000 subs between on both platforms. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't mind both, but I want to hit 1,000 subs on YouTube, 1,000 subs on Rumble by the end of the year. So share this content out. If you like it, share it. And the more you comment, the more it pops up in other people's feeds. It's great if you could help a brother out that way too. You guys be safe, take care of your stuff, get some good training, learn some good hard and soft skills, because who knows what tomorrow's going to bring. You guys are rad. Stay tuned, take somebody shooting, and as always, stay range-minded. Peace, guys.